Hey, oh, whoa. No. It is not the best of the DPB show. It is DPB. It is not Memorex. It is me in the flesh. DPB is back in studio. I am sorry for obviously being away from as Rush Limbaugh referred to his microphone, the golden microphone. I would be a disservice to say that mine is a golden microphone, but it is a microphone that I enjoy being behind. And I am back after a 2 weeks sabbatical. I hope I said that right. If not, I have to put a B in there. Sometimes I don't do that. But hey, it's good to be back with you. Thank you all for the messages and notes that you had sent to me. Some of you I know don't necessarily always realize that it is not me in studio, but it is Memorex. But I appreciate you listening in my absence. You know what? As I always have mentioned, and this is now, if my counting is right, this is year number 3. We have reached 3 years of broadcasting here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond. And it's humbling, and it's really amazing to think that we've come this far. And I want to talk a little bit about that today. Obviously, this show, the DPB show, was founded on concrete ways of not only turning around our local government, but state government and the federal government. And the biggest thing that we deal with in government is corruption. And we know that because it is on full display right now, I should say, everywhere we look. We are seeing some form of corruption. Joe Biden, obviously, is the best example we have because the man lies. And then he lies about lying. And then the media lies about the lies that he's told to cover up for the lies. And I think I have also mentioned at one time or another that we know they're lying. They know that we know they're lying. They know that we know that they know that we know that they're lying. And they still do it. And they're going to continue to do it because that is all they have. They don't have any way out of this debacle they've created. You know, many of you, and I know that you've heard this saying. So as we here at Cities realize is you guys are, for the most part, P1s. There's very few of you that aren't loyal listeners. There are the detractors. I don't get as many derogatory comments towards my person as our key headline speakers do, like Levin and Bongino. But we do get some pushback. But for the most part, you guys are, you're in every day on the radio with Kat, with Ty, with Kevin, with myself, with Eldonzo and Dees, with Chandler and Swan, and then all of, like I said, the headliners back, Bongino, Hannity, Levin, Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins, Ben Shapiro. But you guys are with us. So you realize that over the years, oh, what a woven web we weave, right? A tangled web we weave. When we practice this habit, this addiction to not being forthright. And I want to make it clear, and I always like to preface this, I am not a perfect human being. No way, no how. I have my faults, and I've mentioned many of those already over the past 3 years, and I'll continue to do that because I fall short. And it's only through the grace of God that I am able to get behind this microphone. Actually, on this 3-year anniversary of the DPB show, what led me here was failure, was falling short, not necessarily meeting up to my goals. However, what keeps me here is you and my my willingness to keep going. And I hope that's where you find yourself. Today, obviously, coming back from my 2 weeks away from the microphone, I've experienced some challenges, some joy, some celebrations in my life. the first week I was out away was for a birthday party up in Wisconsin, a first birthday party for our granddaughter, my wife and I's granddaughter. The second week was for a wedding over in Cincinnati. Uh, and in the mix of all of that, we had family coming and going. My beautiful daughter, Hannah, is no longer a resident of Illinois. She has now moved to Nashville. I hope to, at some point, get her on the show to talk about what life is like in Nashville, Tennessee, as opposed to the Bloomington Normal area. She has been on my show over the course of 3 years many times, and I always, really appreciate my daughter and her insights as someone who is 25 years of age and exploring and seeing the world through a whole different perspective than her dear old dad. But Hannah moved out of the state, and I helped her do that and make sure that she got on her way in a safe manner. And yes, my heart is somewhat confused, right? As many of you probably have found out when you've gone through a similar experience, that you long for your children to be close by, to be near, but yet you also appreciate that they're grown-ups and they have to go out and explore the world and to be the best version of themselves. And they're going to do that whether you are holding them back or not. They will eventually find their way. And so we wish the best for Hannah, obviously, as she starts a new life in Tennessee. But it brings us back to the corruption. Not that Hannah brings us back to the corruption. Obviously, her leaving and many young people leaving the state of Illinois, it does deal with the corruption and what they see going on around them and the inability to truly live here in a manner that's prosperous. Not to say you can't. I mean, unfortunately, people who do well for themselves during times such as these with high inflation, if they are frugal and they're protecting of their assets tend to grow in value. Where people who do not have assets, they don't grow in value. In fact, we see it manifested in so many ways around the Bloomington Normal community and beyond, right? Throughout the state of Illinois. I saw it in Cincinnati, Ohio last weekend. We see what is currently transpiring. And it gets back to the lies that are being told, that continue to be told over and over and over again. And, it's, I think it was best put, and I know that Kevin's going to prepare this audio for me, and I know many of you have heard about this before, but I'd like to really keep this somewhat of the focus of today's show, besides dealing with all of the other news that's out there. And the other news that's out there, we didn't have a big drop on Friday. I was expecting it. I've come to expect it as I'm preparing for my shows. I never get too locked in on any one topic or any one thing, because there are going to be drops usually on Friday. Well, here we had a whole news cycle through the Monday through Thursday, and Friday came, and I said, okay, here we go. How are they going to manifest themselves in the big lie this time? And it kind of went really gently into the weekend. So what that kind of tells me is the week will start out probably on a low key, and it will build and build and build in the news cycle. And there will be something that definitely comes out. I know there's some Trump news out in the court system, and that he seems to have gotten a reprieve, and we'll touch upon that a little bit too. But you can prepare all you want, and you can think that you know what is going to happen next or what you should be saying next, and you come to find out in the instant of any given moment of any given day that suddenly things shift, which is part of life. Things have been shifting for a long time, but as I was alluding to, many of you are aware of this Paul Harvey in 1965. And Paul Harvey, obviously one of my heroes out there, right up there with Rush Limbaugh. Paul Harvey being kind of what I believe the original Rush Limbaugh to some degree. If I Were the Devil, If I Were the Devil is a transcript that he put together in 1965. And this is a very famous audio depiction of how Paul Harvey saw the world. And I want to break this down piece by piece. I don't want to play the entire thing. It's about 3 minutes. I want to play it in 2 different segments, and then we can cover it and break it down in this first hour of the DPB show. But Kev, you ready for it? All right, Kev's got it locked and loaded. Let's go ahead and just listen to the first half of Paul Harvey's If I Were the Devil.
If I were the devil, if I were the devil, if I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness, and I'd have 1/3 of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree, thee. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old, I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed.
Yeah. No, you can stop it there. That's fine. That is about halfway. I was trying to log in on the word count, Kevin. So thank you, Kevin, for stopping it there, because there's so much, and I don't know about you, but I find myself so engrossed by that, because it was 58 years ago that Paul Harvey came up as the orator of these words. I mean, just breaking it down, it's just fascinating to hear that. And I encourage you, we'll post this up on our Facebook page. And speaking of Facebook, we are live at Facebook. I got to get back in the rhythm, just like Kevin across the way. I so appreciate. I know Kevin was live both Sundays that I was gone, so you can always catch Speechless from 3 to 5 here on Sundays. But Kev and I are back in studio a couple weeks apart. You kind of lose that touch and go rhythm of things. So Kevin, as always, thank you for queuing that up. And I do want to get to it, because I know we're going to go into a break here. But 58 years ago, Paul Harvey put together this masterpiece, If I Were the Devil. You know, to say things like, he would whisper to people that and convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good, and what good is square and old. I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. That's a statement. No different than Oliver Anthony's Richmond north of Richmond. You sense this common theme that we have been on this path of corruption for so long. And we have. We've been told that for many, many years, that we have been on a trajectory of corruption. Man seems, it's so blatantly obvious now when you're dealing with the likes of the Biden crime family, or in Springfield with Alexei, our Secretary of State, who had the audacity in front of a judicial hearing in the Senate, in front of John Kennedy, to tell him that the laws that have been put forth in the state of Illinois in regards to books and the banning of the books, or the non-banning of books, is to protect people from random parents without ever defining what random, quote unquote. Of course, I got my air quotes going. If you're on Facebook, you can see I've got my little bunny ears up, quotes unquotes. And I kind of left that a little bit, Kevin. I want to jump back because Facebook Live is live. We are on YouTube. We are on Twitter. We are on Rumble. You can always tune in. And I appreciate those people who are joining us live. It doesn't take very long, Kevin, when you're away from the mic to lose traction when it comes to social media. So I apologize. I promise you I will do better. Obviously, 3 years and I'm still trying to do the best show yet. I haven't accomplished that. But Paul Harvey leads us in a manner about what Alexei was saying in front of a Senate Judiciary Committee. Random parents, defining parents at random. I don't know what random parents are upset about the different books that are so explicit. And we did play them on Kat Peterson's show on Thursday. I happened to be in studio with her, and we played John Kennedy's comments. And you can go out to YouTube and you can Google John Kennedy on the Senate, in the Senate Judiciary Committee, and listen to his comments, because he had questions of our Illinois Secretary of State on how they could move in this manner and how they were going to leave that up. Hey, I know that we're up against the break. I'm once again getting used to being back in the flow of things. We're going to go to break here real quick, and I do hope that you guys join us on the other side of this announcement, because we're going to cover a little bit more if I were the devil. All right, so we jumped out of the gate for my first show back, Kevin. Wasn't that a surprise? The best of.
Yeah, I told Kat about it. I think she's trying to fix it. I don't know.
Yeah, well, she gets it fixed, so be it. Because we're live radio. And when you're doing things live, it is kind of, a little touch and go here. Oh, speaking of live, I have to look at my eyes because we are live on Facebook. Hey, I appreciate you all out there. Please like and share on our social media platforms, whether it's my show, whether it's Conservative Cat, Speechless with Kevin Ferris, Ty Smith, the Modern Renaissance Man, also known for his show, Cancel This, Eldonzo and Dees. I don't know if Chandler and Swan are doing the platforms, but go out there and like it. They have they are on Facebook. But please support our venture here, because we know how vital it is to bring content to all media forms. We believe that we're in a fight, as I said in my opening, that the mainstream medium, the lamestream media, the legacy media, whatever you want to refer to them as, the drive-by media, as Rush used to call them, they're going to cover for the corruption. In fact, the biggest thing that we heard last week, and I'm sure if you were in the news cycle, and we'll talk a little bit about this when we come back, which is going to be here in a few seconds, is that there is no evidence that Joe Biden had anything to do with Hunter Biden. Yes, you are listening to the David Paul Blumenshine Show. This is not Memorex. This is not the best of. Sorry about the programming. Sometimes things happen. It's live radio, as we were just alluding to on Facebook. And if you want to join us over there, please do. We stream on Facebook. We are on Rumble, Twitter, and YouTube. And so go out there, like, subscribe. That's a different way of us sharing these messages, this content, our shows. And it's so important because, as I was saying during break, and it's hard to split between the two media sources while you're on the show. And if I'm redundant, it's just because I'm trying to get back into the flow of things. But it's important because the mainstream legacy, industrialized drive-by media is not going to cover the corruption of the Biden administration or the corruption that goes on in Illinois. Isn't it amazing that Michael Madigan had such a stronghold on our state for so many years? And it wasn't until the end of his tenure as the Speaker of the House, the longest standing Speaker of the House in the country, 37 years, that we saw that his daughter, who was the Attorney General here in Illinois, stepped out. And she stepped out with a lot of people speculating that she was going to run for the governor's office. Instead, she stepped out because she knew what was coming down the pipe. There were going to be indictments of her father. She didn't want to be put into a position where she was the Attorney General overseeing the Speaker's indictments, which happens to be her father. So this is the corruption that we're not going to hear about in typical mainframe media. They are going to capture something and frame it in a totally different light. As I was saying during the break, we know that the biggest battle cry right now of the Democrat Party and those on the left is that there is no evidence, absolutely no evidence, to link Joe Biden to Hunter Biden and his business dealings. And I think we've discussed this many times over, and I know Speaker McCarthy did an amazing job of explaining this, and I know that Dan Bongino does it in a manner that isn't quite as loving, caring, sharing as the Speaker did it. But there's a list of things that we do know that the Democrats are unwilling to look at in this lie after lie to cover for a lie. Outside of the bank records, outside of the suspicious activity reports, the wire transfers, the private transactions, the LLCs, the texts, the emails, the WhatsApp app messages, the photos of Joe with Hunter's business partners, the voicemails to his son, the two business partners saying that Joe is the brand, the big guy, the chairman, the two whistleblowers' testimony, the recorded phone calls between Biden and Poroshenko, the video of Joe Biden bragging about firing the Ukrainian prosecutor, and Hunter's statements that he's giving his dad half his income. There is absolutely no evidence of Joe Biden being involved. My point being, and you guys know this, they're not going to cover it in a manner that's honest, that's forthright, that's true, that's transparent. We came out of a presidency. The last Democrat president was Barack Hussein Obama. He said he was going to have the most transparent administration in the history of the United States of America. We know where that went. The amount of transparency was little to none. And we found out through the Trump administration exactly how deep and wide the deep state is in our country. Hey, we're going to cover that. And like I said, we're going to get back to If I Were the Devil by Paul Harvey. What a great way to come back into the flow of the DPB show. Because when it's all said and done, really, 58 years ago, Paul Harvey said it all. We'll catch you on the other side of the break here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Ty Smith. Was that Mark Levin going to say Ty Smith? Heroes all over the place. Ty Smith is one of the heroes. He's my friend. He's a hero. Many friends like that. Cat Peterson, a great hero. Kevin Ferris across the way. Hero. I mean, to be doing what Kai and Cat and Kevin are doing in a manner of the conservative values and principles, putting themselves out there because, as many of you might chat or comment. And of course, for those that are live right now with us on Facebook, please fill in the blanks. In fact, look at that. I can spot a cat. Oh, cat, she's trying to hide now. Cat's in the office behind me. Cat's behind the glass. She's going to try fixing things on the radio side. We're having some technical difficulties because it wasn't set up for me to make a return. And, I'm really good with that, cat. If we want to go ahead and play the best of, we can do that. Kevin could get some show prep in. Kevin, that's an ongoing joke around here that Kevin works a little bit on his show prep when we're in studio. But you know what? It goes to show you, too, the brilliance of Kevin Ferris and Speechless, because Kevin can be multitasking. Yours truly, as the host, can only unitask. In fact, they've tried to get me to run the board, and I'm hoping to learn more of the technical background of what's going on across the way, whichever way it is. But Kevin does amazing things over there. So he has the ability to show prep and to comment when I ask him questions. Kat, you're finding it out. She's working on it. We're coming back around. We got a few seconds yet because this is the bottom of the hour, right? I did catch the score of the Bears game. Tampa Bay's up 13-10 over the Bears. Kevin, I still went with the Bears. The Bears. I will always take I'm never going to bet against the Bears, even though I'm pretty certain Tampa's going to win. I kind of pick my teams on the weekends based on what my friends like, or like now with Hannah living in Tennessee, I'm going to always pick the Tennessee Titans to win.
Yeah, I have a fantasy football team, so I don't really root for teams. I root for players. Whoever is going to help my team win.
I'm not sophisticated enough to know hardly any of the players because I am getting up there in age, which is something I want to talk about when we come back on air. I want to talk about the birthday that I just had in my absence. So here I think we're coming back.
Yep, and it looks like we're actually going to get a bump this time.
So. Oh, wow. Okay. Let's listen to it.
There you
go. I'm bumping again. Kevin, I'm back. Hey, you know what? Kat Peterson, shout out to Kat Peterson. She came, I don't know where from. And next thing I know, over my shoulder was Kat Peterson fixing the technical difficulties we were having here on Sunday from 1 to 3, the DPB show. I appreciate you guys listening. Obviously, when I was away for the last 2 weeks, I was having many of you were sending me text messages, applauding the show that I was doing that actually I must have done over the course of 3 years. I don't even know what was queued up in my absence. Really, because I'm at an age, and I was just telling Kevin this off air, that I'm at an age now. I turned 60 on September 5th. I can't believe it. What I can't believe is at 60 years of age, I know that age is just a number for many of you. Don't start chatting on the chat room or calling into 309-451-9299, 309-451-929. But it definitely is different, Kevin. 60 years is still 60 years.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about that, Kevin, as I've shared with you many times, that's 240 seasons. I can do the math on that. 240 seasons is a long time to be on this earth. Wow. And I'm very thankful and grateful to be on this earth. I have to disclose something because I wasn't here the Sunday after my 60th birthday. Unbeknownst to me, I was surprised, and boy, what a surprise it was. My wife hosted a party at Keg Grove. I don't believe they're a sponsor, but I know that they have participated in the Seats for Soldiers and the Tailgate and Tall Boys. So at Keg Grove, and I was anticipating a couple beers with my daughters and then off to another place to have dinner about an hour at Keg Grove. Well, like I said, surprise, surprise, my wife had been putting together behind the scenes, secretively, all these invites to so many people And it was mind-boggling and humbling. And yes, yours truly, there were a couple tears shed. Because when you see the manifestation, I guess I put it best to my friend Darren. That would happen to be Darren Bailey. I called him up out on his way. He showed up all the way from Southern Illinois. Darren Bailey came to DPB's 60th birthday party. And I was telling Darren, just thanking him for driving, because people like Carol Davis, who's been on the radio with me many times, and Jan Shaw, they came down from the Chicagoland area, and other people from Western Illinois, Eastern Illinois. I don't think there was anybody from out of state. And if there was, I'm sorry that I didn't get it out there. But people from all over the state of Illinois came to celebrate this 60th birthday. And as I was telling Darren, it was humbling, because I can only imagine when you see these poster boards, you've seen them at funerals, right? Where they put together a whole history of your life depicted upon poster boards and easels and pictures. And you walk in and you see all of these people who have been so instrumental, who have been part of your, well, first and foremost, they're just friends. And they have been those all-weather friends, because they've been with DPB through success, through failure, through ups and downs, through the good times, through the bad times, in sickness and in health. And that's why we say that as a wedding vow, till death do us part, because these people were there in a time when I absolutely wasn't expecting it. And yes, the emotions were high, but I shared with Darren Bailey these words. I said, I don't know what it would be like, because nobody does, to be alive at your funeral visitation. I think I said that to you, didn't I, Kevin? Kevin came. And many people like Kevin, people who have crossed your path in life, your friends, those people who truly have impacted your life in so many ways, and you've grown with them, and you've shared, the trash of your life, but you've also shared the treasure.
Mm-hmm.
And you might be hearing a little bit of this coming from the Victorious Life from Pastor Timothy James Farrell, because surprise, surprise, again, this morning at the morning message at the Tabernacle, the morning message was winning at friendships. And, I was striking out again this week, trying to come back into the flow of the DPB show. I was calling different people who I thought would be part of this show today, mostly candidates running for political office, but they were all booked up. And I was finding myself at a loss, but I said, no problem. Kev's going to be in studio with me. There was a lot going on in the news cycle last week, as I promoted earlier. The corruption just is nonstop. The no evidence thing is just a joke. And Dan Bongino is right for saying that all of these journalists, so-called journalists, should be ashamed of themselves, especially if they have children. Because how could anybody look at their parents and say, golly, you're lying? That's one thing I hope that my daughters never look at me and say, gosh, Dad, you were openly lying, openly and notoriously lying. I know I'm on a little rant, Kevin, but I want to get back to the birthday.
Yep.
I mean, people, it was so humbling, and to experience that, to see people walking in from days gone by that you might not have communicated with, but you don't skip a beat. In the midst of everything we're going through in our country right now, and they truly are growing pains, right? And this is what Paul Harvey was talking about. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them the man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good, and what's good is square. And the old, I would teach to pray after me, our Father which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting. so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. Once again, 58 years ago, Paul Harvey put this forward on the airways. If I were the devil, transcript. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves until each in turn was consumed. It is amazing that we live in such a time as this. For many of you that are faithful people, you might realize that today is the high season of the Christian church, especially in Israel. They started gathering at sundown on Friday. And of course, you know, the difference between Israel and the United States, the time is definitely different. The world goes around on its axis. Some people don't necessarily believe that, and I get that, but that's for another discussion on another show at another time. But they were at the Wailing Wall because this weekend, as of sundown on Friday, the Sabbath, it is Rosh Hashanah, one of the highest seasons. And for many Christians, we believe that as Jesus was crucified on the Passover, Jesus will return on Rosh Hashanah, the blowing of the trumpets, when the last trumpet blows. It says in Luke somewhere, I think is it Luke somewhere? I don't know. It's in there. It's in the Bible. I'll have to reference them. Sorry, I didn't have that right off the top of my tongue, but it does reference that the last trumpet will blow and Christ will appear. Well, that's where we're at. Well, relating to what Paul Harvey said, if I were the devil, and how that all kind of mixes in with everything that we are currently experiencing culturally. It's fascinating to see how everything lines up. That's why I believe that message of friendship this morning that was delivered, and I do want to play the rest of Paul Harvey's If I Were a Devil, probably when we come back from break. But if we can't hold on to friendship and the winning of friendship and how important friends are, you know, there definitely is something to be said. You know, I don't have it in front of me right now, but many of you might recall this in the movie A Wonderful Life, one of my favorite all-time movies, right up there with Passion of Christ and The Fugitive, but that's for another day too. Only seen The Fugitive a few times, maybe 20, 30, probably more. I just can keep watching it over because it is such a movie about passion and love and love for his wife. But all of these things are about friendship and passion and going to not letting things, standing in the way, getting out in front of things. That's what friendship is about, being there during the times when no one else is there. When we talk about this friendship that I experienced at my birthday party, it truly takes you to a position and a level that I do truly believe The Wonderful Life. I had to go back and play this after my birthday party, Kevin. In fact, I posted it on my Facebook page. It's the scene where at the end of the movie, all the townspeople are coming in. George has obviously been brought back to reality, away from the alternate reality of not being alive anymore on this earth. Or the fact that he wishes he was never born. And obviously it's depicted on all the lives he had influenced, but all these townspeople came. But the one thing that struck me the most is the copy of Mark Twain's book, Huckleberry Finn, where on the inside of the cover, the angel who had rescued him out of the river, he's inscribed a little note that no man is a failure who has friends. And how true that is. No man is a failure who has friends. And when you see friendship manifested as I had the privilege of seeing on September 5th of this year for my 60th birthday party, it is truly humbling. And it does bring a raw emotion out of the inner core of your being. And it is truly an out-of-body experience at some degree. That's why I mentioned to my friend Darren that it was like being at your own funeral visitation and watching people process in. But the best part about this was I was fully alive. And it's going to take me weeks, I believe, to truly grasp what happened there. Because friendship, there's nothing like it. Because friends are friends forever. True friends, all-weather friends, people who you know in the instant of a moment would be there, that always have your back. Taking words from Pastor Timothy James Farrell, most of us can see what's ahead of us, Kevin. Kevin's got a show here in a couple hours, or no, in an hour. A couple hour show in an hour. He can see what's in the future because he's preparing. What we can't predict is what's from the rear of us, because it's easy to sneak up on somebody. And that's where friends help us with our blind sides in life. And believe me, I have many blind sides. And the person who put together that birthday party, shout out to my beautiful bride, Tanya. Surprise, surprise, one of the greatest moments I have ever experienced here on earth. One for the books, Kevin. I don't know what I'm going to do for my wife's 60th birthday, but don't worry. I'll keep you guys posted. Hey, we're going to go to break. And when we come back, I want to get back to If I Were a Devil by Paul Harvey 58 years ago. He put this forward and how true it is today. Hey, we'll see you on the other side or on Facebook. Okay. We're building. We're going to get it back on Facebook and Twitter and Rumble and YouTube. Please like, subscribe, chat. Put a chat in the chat room. Yes, we are back. Some might have been faked out. It wasn't really a deep fake, but it was the best of David Paul Blumenshine. It is not the best of. This is actually yours truly, DPB in the flesh, in studio here at Cities 92. Yes, don't take 2 weeks off, but they kind of have lined up. You had a birthday party for granddaughter up in Wisconsin on the 3rd of September. Then my wife's youngest son was married in Cincinnati. Hey, Kevin, you know what's the cool thing about Cincinnati? Are we coming back? No, cool thing about Cincinnati is Sam Adams actually brews beer in Cincinnati. Oh, yeah? Yeah. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
They have a brewery. And they also have a tap room. And if you think that, I'm a big proponent of fresh beer. I love fresh beer, whether that be from our local tap rooms like White Oak or Distill or Little Beaver or Keg Grove or Casper's, because we have a few of them, and now Emancipation out in the Fairbury area, and then there's one out in Lexington. I can't remember, but it's a growing thing, right? This is tap rooms. Well, the wedding was actually at one called Rheingeist, and where does Rhein and Geist come from? Well, Rhine is the Rhine River. Geist in German is ghost. I was wondering why their little logo was a little ghostly figure. Yeah. But Rheingeist, good beer. I enjoyed it, but nothing like Sam Adams on tap. Fresh Sam Adams. I had just mentioned on air about my experience with my birthday celebration and having a heavenly experience here on earth. Well, being in Sam Adams tap room was kind of a heavenly experience too. Sucking back a couple Sam Adams, it was truly delightful. I ended up with a sweatshirt, Kevin. I'll wear it next week. Sam Adams across the chest from me. But yeah, big stuff. But anyhow, thank you for joining us on the social media piece. We definitely are continuing this platform of getting messaging out to you via the digital means of putting forth videos, so you can track, follow us, and comment anytime you would like. I once again am humbled by all those people who continue to reach out and who continue to stop me on the street and say, hey, I love what you're doing there. I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you for being a voice of reason in a time of craziness. As Paul Harvey says, if I were the devil, and we're going to cover the rest of that when we come back, because I think it's important. Kevin kind of cut it off at the right time, about halfway through. And I want to get the rest of it played before my show is over. But, we've got a whole second hour, or actually I've got a little segment here and then the second hour.
I have the video ready, but I don't know how much you could have. You'd have enough time. You have 1 minute and 45 seconds left in the video. And you'll have about 7 minutes on air.
Oh, okay, good.
So,
well, I'll set it up then. Okay, hold on. I don't know how I could do it here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington, Normal, and beyond, without the help of my support staff. Kevin across the way, of course, is with me, has been with me now. I don't even know how many shows we've done together. As many as you've been on the air?
Probably been just under 2 years, because I started my show.
Kevin, are you going through a change?
Am I going through a change?
You're a little old to be going through the change. Your voice seems to be getting deeper. Were you yelling? Were you screaming?
I was at a concert last night.
Okay, okay. Kevin was singing along at the concert. Yeah. It doesn't sound like it was real mellow music.
It was Clayton Shea. It was some good old country music and country and rock and roll.
Well, you kind of got a little country sound to you today, Kevin.
Heck yeah.
But as I was saying, I can't do it without the support that I get here at Cities 92. Obviously, I appreciate you, the listener, and tuning in and keeping us, on the straight and narrow, right? Because we don't want to be doing anything wrong. We don't want to be known as liars. And unfortunately, that seems to be where we're at. We're in a time where people lie about lying in order to lie. And it just is mind-boggling. But not only was Kevin helping us get this thing straightened out when we came back into studio here today for the DPB show. Technical difficulties. Of course, you're going to have that when you take a few weeks off. But Kat came in from nowhere. It was just like a cat, as they do. Kat swooped in here, fixed all the technical difficulties to bring you the best programming we can, because it's important to us on the weekends that we're just not taking a break. It's easy to get comfortable in the programming that you have during the week. But we know that it's important, especially in the weekends, because of the big Friday drops. Now, we didn't have a big Friday drop, and thankfully we didn't, because there was so much ahead of Friday that's going on. But really, at the end of the day, here's what it deals with. And Paul Harvey said it best in his 1965 transcript. If I were a devil, we're going to pick it up where we left it off. It was right after he basically talked about families being at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves until each in its turn was consumed. Hit it, Kevin.
And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion. and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. And what'll you bet? I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing.
Paul Harvey. Good day.
You know, once again, I don't know of another transcript or orator. I mean, Rush did some amazing things and gave some beautiful monologues about, and there's been many pastors. Believe me, I love Francis Chan, and there's many others that Pastor Timothy James Farrell, I love listening to him too. But as concise as this message was in 3 minutes, written 58 years ago, 1965, to say things like until before you knew it, before you knew it, you'd have to have drug sniffing dogs and metal detectors in every schoolhouse door. 58 years ago, 1965, 2 years after yours truly was born here on this earth. Paul Harvey, If I Were a Devil. I'm going to break down the rest of this in the second hour because there was so much more. This really kind of was built upon a message that truly was impactful the further he went in the message, especially with things like defy science. Have we heard about defying science? You know, when the Cochrane report finally came out after the COVID hysteria, even though many great minds were telling us that we were beyond our scope and we weren't taking this thing in a manner that was scientific, it was based on pseudoscience, defying science. And, you know, the next line, I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. Hey, we talk about lying about the lies that we lie about and cover it up in our media sources. We won't do that here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington, Normal, and beyond. We are never going to compromise and to lay down and bow down to the corruption that has manifested itself throughout our entire society, whether that's local government, state government, or federal government. We are here to try to seek the truth. Hey, we're going to do that on the other side of the top of the hour news. Please come back. We look forward to seeing you if you're not with us on the radio, over on Facebook, Twitter, Rumble, or YouTube. But we'll be back right after this at the DPB Show. Okay. Thank you to my beautiful support staff. As I have 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 16 through 17. For the Lord himself, this is in reference to Rosh Hashanah. I didn't pull the Thessalonians. I think I tried laying it on Luke somewhere. Sometimes I get ahead of myself. But 1 Thessalonians 4, chapter 4, verses 16 through 17. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a commanding shout, with the voice of an archangel, and with the trumpet call of God. First, the believers who have died will rise from their graves. Then together with them, we who are still alive and remain on earth will be caught up in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. Then we will be with the Lord forever. Yep. Oh, Matthew 24:31. And he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call. So it wasn't Luke, it was Matthew. That's where I was a little wayward. And they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. Hence, the celebration of the new year, Rosh Hashanah, which many Christians believe is the time, is the day or the festival when Christ will return to earth. So right now, there's a few more hours in the day. It could happen. It might not happen. None of us knows if it will happen today or tomorrow or at any moment. So I encourage you always and everywhere to be prepared. Be prepared to meet your maker. How important that is, especially on Sunday. And I know that many of you probably think, DPB, you and Kat, you guys, we feel like we're your radio evangelist or conservative talk show evangelist. And we are. I mean, once again, this is something that is so ingrained into every fiber of our beings. We can't hide from it. We can't lie about it. We can't run from it. In fact, when we are caught in maybe a mistruth, we are convicted by it, as we should be. And many of you out there, and once again, if you're with us on Facebook Live or YouTube, Rumble or Twitter, smash the like button, subscribe. It just allows us to continue to bring you the content of conservative talk radio, of messaging you're not going to hear on The View, especially The View, but CNN, MSNBC, and any of the other, what is it called? The Hunter Biden deniers. Can we call them the Biden deniers, since there is no evidence anymore? And we know that there's more evidence than, yeah. Anyhow. Dan Bongino says, stop embarrassing yourself. Hold on, I've got to get to the text line. See my text messages. It's funny. Some people who know that I'm on the radio right now, I don't think they always remember it, but they text me while I'm on my radio program. So at least it tells me I'm going to send a text back to this person. I won't call him out on air. Well, I'm not on air, but I'm on Facebook Live. I wanted to say, are you listening to my show? All right. You've got to go out to Twitter and look at Joe Biden's page on Twitter, or JB Pritzker's. You know, when I talk about welcome to the land of make-believe, or in the immortal words of Tattoo, boss, the plane, because it is Fantasy Island. These guys, I mean, how their writers who do their social media, I mean, it's like they almost have to come up with whatever reality is. They have to write the direct opposite of what reality is. Crazy times. Paul Harvey, what do you have to say about that? We're going to get the rest of the Paul Harvey, If I Were the Devil. These things are moving along quickly at a clip. Kevin, how much time do we have left? Okay. Oh, 45 seconds. All right. Well, I can wait till the next break. Then during the 7-year tribulation years, God sends 144,000 evangelists, 2 witnesses, and 3 angels to proclaim that all can have salvation. They need only ask. Hell is not full of those who God rejected, but those who rejected God. Very good point. Thank you. That is stuff that's good. We'll see if I get a message back from the texter who is trying to set an appointment. Powerful, exposing, and true. You know what? I've missed hearing that bump music, Thank you for tuning in to DPB. And no, this is not the best of the DPB show. It is actually me in studio, as I try to be year round. But, sometimes life happens and you have celebrations come up. We've been talking about some of that earlier in the show. I had a first birthday party for a granddaughter. I had a wedding for my wife's youngest son over in Cincinnati. I had my daughter going off to Nashville, leaving the great state of Illinois, leaving at least Illinois, for Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee. We wish my daughter Hannah, who has been on my show many times, the best as she starts her life there in Nashville, Tennessee. And I hope to go visit her soon. Here it is. It's only been a couple days and I miss her so much. But thankfully, I have FaceTime. I have technology, like Find the Phone, so I can live vicariously as my daughter travels around on a little dot. That's where we've come through to. However, speaking of that, as I shared with you, this show has been about exposing powerful and true. We heard it last week, and I challenge you today, if you have the opportunity, and you're somebody that does this. Not everybody does social media, and I get that. Believe me, I think you're probably better off for it if you're not doing social media. But if you are tuned into social media and you have an account on Twitter, now known as X, go to Joe Biden's Facebook or X page and go to JB Pritzker's X page and listen to what their writers have put forward as their messaging. Here I've said it many times over the course of 3 years. We are celebrating the 3rd anniversary of the DPB show. Thank you, everyone, for being part of that over the year. And if you'd like to chime in today, the text line is always open. And so is the studio line, 309-451-9299, 309-451-9299. But go out to JB or Joe Biden's X page, formerly known as Twitter, and listen to what their staff writers put out. These guys truly live in the land of make-believe. As Tattoo used to say on Fantasy Island, "De plane, boss, de plane." Because welcome to Fantasy Island. It's almost as if they have to tell the opposite of what reality is in order to continue to propel themselves. Because they found, as I said earlier, before Trump truly shined a light on the entire expansiveness of the corruption that is going on, not only in DC, but in this country. And, interesting, I do need to dovetail real quick here, because I know that many of you have heard people say this about DPB. DPB sometimes sounds really down upon conservatives or Republicans. And, all I have to say about that is the golden rules of Dan Bongino. Not all, most Republicans are really Democrats, but there are no Democrats that are really Republicans. He also says this, and I take these words to heart, and if you haven't seen it or heard about it, Dan Bongino has a new book out called The Gift of Failure. I encourage you, go out there, get a copy of it. Yes, I'm plugging his book because I look forward to sitting down and reading it myself, because a lot of Dan's life parallels my life. It's very interesting. But, the thing is that Dan also says that I just have taken now as to be one of my golden rules is this, that the Republican that's out there in today's world, they truly are trying to find their way. And, you know, they're going to do it. I think I'm long on the Republican Party. I'm short on the Democrat Party because Republicans are not the answer to all of our problems. And this is what Dan says. But I am certain of this. Democrats are the cause of our problems. And I've also said this because I do agree with Bernie Sanders. Yes, you heard it here. I agree with Bernie Sanders. Just because I borrowed it from Ted Cruz. Most of what Bernie Sanders talks about, just like most of my Democrat friends, what they talk about, yes, we're all concerned about those same things. We don't want to see starving children. We don't want to see elderly people abused or the fact that their health care or Medicare is taken away. We want clean water. We want forests. We want national parks. We do not want the world to melt, believe it or not, because it's not. We want corporations to be responsible to the people that they provide products and services to. So we all want the same thing. How we get there is where we differ. See, my friends on the left, the Democrat Party, they believe government is the solution. I believe that government is the problem. That is no better put forward than by Paul Harvey's message of 1965, If I Were the Devil. If you're just joining us, I've gone through this, and I'm going to put it up on our Facebook page because I think it's so important. And it was really brought to the top of my mind this morning during church when my friend and pastor, Timothy James Farrell, who hosts the show A Victorious Life just prior to the DPB show, was covering winning at friendships, the 4 facts of a true friend. And it really made me think of Paul Harvey's message when we look at friendship and what the goal is of the devil, to break down our relationships with the people that are nearest and dearest to us. I know many of you have probably already heard this Paul Harvey thing, but I encourage you to, like me, I forget. And I think that's part of the devil's plan, is to help us forget. I'll pick it up where I left off. This was right after, until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. Well, in today's times, they're not going to be overflowing anymore because we've come up with laws from our governor and at the federal level that we don't believe in incarcerating. We think that that is some form of systemic racism. Interesting. Systemic racism is the catchphrase, just like no evidence, because who's in charge of all the major metropolitan cities? Mostly people of color, minorities. So if the systemic racism has existed for 20, 30 years, then I think the blame comes back to those people who are overseeing how those communities run. But within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Encourage you to go out there and look at John Kennedy's Senate Judicial Committee hearing, where they had Alexei Giulianis, the Secretary of State. I think I'm saying his name correctly. It's sometimes hard to get that all out in one little statement. But Alexei, our Secretary of State of Illinois, and how he accused random parents as being the purveyors of all things book banning and wanting to go after books. But go out and listen. I'd have judges promoting pornography, or schools, or libraries, or Who knows? Because we know sex trafficking is an epidemic worldwide. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, which has been done, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and defy science. As I said prior to going to the break, we just came through the COVID crazy times where we were defying science. We came up with new scientific rules that weren't really scientific. Encourage everyone to read the Cochrane report as it deals with masking and social distancing and all those things. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make his symbols of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who want until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. You know, interesting thing, and I don't know if many of you caught this or not. Tucker has a piece out there right now. He was interviewing the presidential candidate for Argentina, who looks like he's an economist, and it looks like he's going to win the election. Hopefully nothing happens to him, because people who are truly on the cutting edge of doing what's right for the people seem to be under the most duress at times. But Tucker has a little snippet where he talks about the country of Argentina and how wealthy that country was until they started to devalue the dollar. Didn't take away the natural resources of the country. It didn't take away anything else. But now you have 1/7 of the population. Roughly, Argentina is about a country of 47 million people. 1/7 of the population, about 7 million people, work in the private sector. 3.5 million people work for the government. So about 1/7 of the population is in supporting the entire country. Hence, it's been riddled with poverty. It's a nation in decline. And you've heard those words. Those words have been used by President Trump on many occasions. We are a nation in decline, and we truly are. 58 years ago, Paul Harvey penned, "If I were the devil. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who want until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious." You know, Mark Levin, one of our headliners during the week, he comes on at 5 o'clock and finishes up about 8. We're just prior to Mark Lee Van Camp and Robbins. Mark Levin has a book, "Why the Democrats Hate America." Well, when we look at what our country has become, once again, the golden rule of Bongino, the Republicans are not the solution to all of our problems. But I am without any doubt that the Democrats is the solution. Paul Harvey goes on to say, and what do you bet I could get whole states to promote gambling as a way to get rich? Is there anywhere we go in the state of Illinois that's not a dining establishment or a fast stop convenience store that doesn't have gambling machines? I would caution against extremes and hard work in patriotism, in moral conduct. Does it sound familiar? Do you hear the trumpets? They're blowing. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that all I can think of when I see that is all of the craziness. Like, I don't even know these things, but it was brought to light by my daughter when we went by somebody who had a license plate that said OnlyFans. My daughter says, "Dad, do you know what that is?" And I'm like, "No, I have no idea. I just thought he was from Olympia." You know, it's a high school near Bloomington Normal here. She goes, no, Dad, it's kind of a soft porn site. You know, I know Kat covered that in her show in Pornhub. Getting back to this, we would convince that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way it to be. And thus, I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing. Good day. 58 years ago, Paul Harvey put that forward. I'm going to put it up on our Facebook page. Please go out, look at that. We are in times of trouble. But the best part about it is, you know, we have friends. And you have a friend in me. Oh, wait a second. That's from Toy Story. You have a friend in me, but you have a friend in all of us here at Cities 92. I believe us to be that voice crying out into the wilderness. Prepare your heart, prepare your mind. We have an election season coming up again. I think it's going to be a whole new approach. I think that that's what many people are doing. They're pushing that. And it's good to see people getting engaged and awakening to the crazy that's consumed us. We're going to talk a little bit about that craziness. We're going to talk a little bit more about what's going on, not only in D.C., but here in Springfield and locally, McLean County Board. That's a big topic. I hope to get the new chairperson, Catherine Metzger. Congratulations, Catherine, on the radio show so we can discuss a little bit about what's going to happen going forward with the board. But we'll break that down. But we'll do that when we come back here on the DPB Show at Cities 92.9 and beyond. All right. As promised, I've got to check out stage left. I'm going to let Kevin pick up the steam, or he can put me on the fire. But you're going to put the crackling fire on? We got a couple people. Somebody needs to chat with us. Who's going to tell us where they're from?
Yeah, who's in there? You should be chatting right now. How's everybody doing out there? I'm doing my show prep. Got a lot to talk about today, everybody. A lot to talk about. Yep, I'm going through some clips from Megyn Kelly's interview with Donald Trump. Those will be interesting. Just a lot. It's going to be a good show. So. Hope everybody's DPB will be right back. I got to save my voice a little bit for my show. But DPB is coming back. Here we go.
Had a lot of time to just be thinking. It was very little time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I was thinking about?
What were you thinking about, DPB?
Kevin, is I'm watching you with Speechless and what you do during the week. You're trying to do your weekly show, which is almost every day. And I have such an appreciation for people like you and Kat and, you know, especially the guys like Bongino and Levin. They're creating this content daily. And I want to talk about this when we come back here, which I know is soon, but the dedication and the work that goes in to creating what we do here, cities and beyond, you know, the Bongino obviously has his own Bongino report and covering all that. But here we go. I think
you're coming back.
Coming back. And it is. I will tell you why you chose me is always been a mystery, because I'm just a nobody. trying to tell somebody, or no, yeah, that's right. Tell everybody about somebody. I'm just a nobody trying. Here we go. You're going to hear it right now. Everybody about somebody who saved my soul, because I couldn't do it without it. Right, Kevin? And that's, it's interesting. My life, I love it. It is like truly living in a video production, if ever there was. And I shared a little bit about my birthday experience, my wife putting together a 60th birthday bash, which will live forever in my heart and in my mind, and the people that showed up for that event here locally from all areas of the state of Illinois to be present with DPB on his celebration of a 0 birthday. I was 60 years of age, but I mean, I can't, it's going to take me weeks, and it's surprising that I didn't take another week off and have a pre-recorded show. But as I was saying just to Kevin, and it's amazing that guys like Kevin across the way, with his content that he puts forth with Speechless, does a weekly show, has me come in sometimes and do reactions to different TikTok videos and things like that. But the guys like, or even Kat, a weekly show, she puts on 3 hours of content every day. Bongino, Levin, Hannity. I'm just a nobody when it comes to that. Now, I've been encouraged by my wife that she believes that it is my gift to go the extra yard, to have more content, to do more shows. And, I believe after 3 years of doing this now that I'm prepared to do that. It's just what's standing in the way. Well, here's what I believe it is. I believe it's this. I have prided myself, for whatever reason, I believe God has called me to be his servant. And I spent a lot of time listening to his call and, letting him reveal to me where he wants me to lead in a given day, or where he wants to lead me in a given day. And sometimes that creates disruptions, but I do need to be better. And I know many of us can make that claim. We need to be better about really carving out the time that God has prepared for us to spend time being the best version of ourselves. What does God truly call me to be in the moment? And I do thank him for the opportunity to do talk radio, because it has been a ride for 3 years, 3-year anniversary. I remember it so well. My first show was in studio here. My second show was out at the Corn Belter Stadium, where I interviewed Rodney Davis, Congressman Rodney Davis at the time. It was Red, White, and Blue Day. That's when I first met Ty Smith. Darren LaHood was supposed to jump on the radio with me, but he got delayed with his son Teddy in St. Louis at a soccer tournament. So I was actually going to bring Ty on, and I didn't. But what I did ask Ty to do was come on my show the next week. Well, lo and behold, Ty Smith came walking into my studio. I had done a little background on Ty Smith in the Modern Renaissance Man, and he told a story, and I was blown away right on air about his life and what led him to Bloomington Normal. And it was fascinating. I encourage you to go out there and listen to it. But I'm going to get into more of that. I want to tell you a little bit more about the history of the DPB show here on Cities 92.9. I also want to circle back in the immortal words of Jen Psaki to If I Were the Devil. Not that Jen Psaki's the devil, but If I Were the Devil by Paul Harvey. But we're going to do that when we come back here at Cities 92.9. By all means, if you'd like to, join us on the other side with our streaming on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or Rumble. We're there. We'll continue to be there. We're not going anywhere. In fact, after the DPB show, I know that Kevin Ferris has got a dynamic show awaiting you. But all that coming up here on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond. Okay. Nope. The fourth quarter, 9 minutes and 43 seconds to go. Bears have the ball on their 16, 17-yard line, and it's 20-10. Yeah, Bears look like they might go 0-2. That means that who do you have in your fantasy football league from the Bears? Anybody?
I have made sure to stay far away from the Bears when it comes to my fantasy football league.
That could be wise. Justin Fields, I'm looking at, yeah, I mean, it's just not easy being the Bears. Oh, something's happening here. I got a long gainer. I mean, it's 9 minutes. I mean, it's 10 points.
It's possible, but seeing how the Bears play,
and they're playing in Tampa. I mean, hopeful. It's the Sunshine State. It's it's a good state. That's where your presidential candidate is from. He happens to be the governor of that state. Greatest
presidential candidates that are from that.
Well, this is true. I forget that is his official residence now, since he's moved out of New York, which who in their right mind would live in New York other than Sean Hannity? Sean Hannity, what in the world? What keeps a person? Dan Bongino used to live there too, and he moved out of there.
Well, I can understand wanting to live in New York, but not like maybe upstate New York. There's a lot of pretty nature and stuff up there.
Beautiful. And they just get away from New York City, Long Island specifically.
Yeah.
There's
here they have pretty good iced tea though in Long Island.
They do make iced tea in Long Island.
Long Island iced tea.
Iced tea. I don't recommend drinking more than one. In fact, some people can't even drink one. I'm pretty certain I can't drink one Long Island iced tea. That's confirmed. But I do like the Sam Adams. I don't know if you were here with us earlier. I happen to be in Cincinnati. They have a brewery, Sam Adams Brewery. I think it's their Midwest brewery of Sam Adams. And boy, I love fresh beer. I love me some fresh beer. And they have a tap room. And they have Sam Adams there that we don't necessarily get here in Illinois. But then again, it is Illinois. So there's a lot of things. But what we can get is some of our local brews like Casper's, Keg Grove, Little Beaver. I'm doing all these promotions for these breweries. Hopefully some of them will advertise with us on the DPB show.
Hopefully.
Anybody. White Oak, forget White Oak. Don't want to leave them out. Distill. Emancipation. Paul Garcia is the one that kind of got me started on. I think it's Little Huey is their anchor. It's not Anchor beer, but it's their anchored product. And love fresh beer. We have fresh beer here. See what else is going on. Once again, continue to subscribe to our social media. Kev, what are you working on your show today?
Yeah, I got some pretty interesting stories. Obviously going to talk a bit about the impeachment inquiry that was open this last week, but I also have the story. I don't know if you heard about this one of a Democrat candidate for the Virginia House of Delegates who performed sex acts online with their husband and is now claiming that Republicans are committing crimes against her by talking about it.
But that's what it says in here, right? If I were the devil, I would do. See, everything that we can talk about can be summed up in Paul Harvey's 1965 transcript.
Yeah. So sex, lies, and conversation.
Because I also heard that Lauren Boebert, they're trying to go after Lauren.
That's another. Well,
Boebert.
She did some interesting things in a movie theater with a man. I might touch on that today.
I don't even want to know.
All right. Well, let's get into this next segment.
Well, but this gets back. Yeah. Go ahead. Oh, I know. I was listening to the song, Kevin. Sometimes I like to listen to the bump music. I hope you like the bump music. For 3 years, I've been using pretty much all the same music because it is near and dear to my heart. I sent that off to production, Inside Baseball Secret. That happens to be our very own Kat Peterson. She compiled all of my bump music for me. Because she thought that this was most fitting for the DPB show. And we've been going with it for about 3 years. Now, that's not necessarily true, Kevin. I want to be, as we said, if I am not being truthful, I want you to hold me accountable. When I came out of the gate, I had some music that I would not say is DPB music. Hold on for a second. I got to get a little bit swig of water. But I would say it would not be characteristic of the DPB mindset when it comes to music. It was more some of that gangster rap stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with the gangster rap, but I just didn't think it was DPB stuff. But sometimes I find myself, I hope you like my bump music. It's near and dear. It's part of who I am. It's part of why I, talk about the things I talk about, because it does matter. Now, Kevin, across the way, was giving us a briefing on Facebook Live about his upcoming show. And I know I always like to give Kevin an opportunity to kind of set the stage for what he's going to talk about, because I've got some opinions of what Kevin's going to talk about. And I should probably chime in because he's not going to call me out to be a guest on his show. I'm still waiting to be a guest on Ty Smith's show. As I said, Ty Smith, that's where we left it off, right? Before the break.
Yep.
Ty Smith, second show. The second show I did out at the Corn Belter Stadium, I met Ty Smith. He actually was part of my third show. Came on, did a great job. I went to the corner office and said, corner office, you got to give this guy a radio show.
So I think it's really funny that you tell this story, because he told the same story on his show yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's funny because he was giving you a shout out for your birthday and everything. And he said, thank you. The only reason I'm here, the only reason I'm doing all this is because of DPB. And so I think it's fun to hear it, because I hear his version of it and I hear yours. And they're similar enough, but the tones and the way you guys describe it and everything, it's just funny to hear the dichotomy.
Now I feel really salty because I was calling him out and I didn't listen. I see, not that I get an opportunity. I happened to be helping some friends yesterday with their wedding venue, the Hesed House. That'd be my friend Desi Anderson and her husband, Nick. So there you go. There's a free commercial, Desi and Nick. Desi's also now announced she will be running for the 91st. But getting back to Ty. So Ty's on my show, and I go to the corner office to give this guy a show, and they do. But he's never invited me to come on his show. But I do appreciate that Ty did, and his wife and their son, one of their sons, two sons, showed up to the surprise birthday celebration for DPB. So with that said, I really can't call Ty out. He's busy. Ty is a busy guy. In fact, he does a lot in the community. He's an assistant pastor, physical therapist. He has a blockbuster YouTube channel. I mean, gosh, what is he up towards? 350,000 subscribers. DPB's got 17, maybe 18.
You have like 60, I think.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Kevin. Well, 60, that's a good number. That's my birthday. If I could just double that by my next birthday, hopefully we'll be able to do that. Go out, like, subscribe. If listen to us on the radio, but definitely like and subscribe on the social media. Cities 92.9 Facebook page. You can catch us live on Facebook, YouTube. We're also on Twitter and on Rumble. Let's get ready to rumble. But anyhow, Kevin, I cut you off. You're going to tell us about what's happening on Speechless today.
Yeah, Speechless today. We got a lot we're covering. Trump's interview with Megyn Kelly, as well as some instances in which maybe he's not as conservative as many would believe. That's part of it. The impeachment inquiry opened up into Joe Biden will be a good portion of the show. And then to lead off, I'll be talking about a candidate, Susanna Gibson, out of Virginia, who's a candidate for the Virginia House of Delegates, who performed sex acts with her husband online and is now claiming that because Republicans are talking about it and media is talking about it, that they are committing crimes against her, even though she did these acts publicly online.
Yes. Yes. Why would you ever take responsibility? I just hope that this doesn't happen, though, but I don't want John Kennedy on the Judiciary Committee to be reading out loud the TikTok reaction to this gal who's running, because that would be really bad if he starts reading that out loud. But I also had mentioned to you, Kevin, that Lauren Boebert is in the news. She happens to be a Republican congresswoman from Colorado.
Yes.
That she has done some inappropriate things. But, when we come full circles, we really do end right back where we started the show off, if I were the devil. Because it's not just a Republican thing. It's not just a Democrat thing.
Those rich men north of Richmond.
And it is to some degree. But it's like these people, these humans, they get into public office and, and they just can't control themselves. They should really go back and read or listen to If I Were a Devil transcript from 58 years ago, and how it is that this society, this culture that we are currently living in, it has played itself out. If this was happening in 1965, how prophetic was this that Paul Harvey, and I know our very own and our beloved Rush Limbaugh talked a lot about society and how things don't change, but corruption is on both sides of the aisle. Republicans are not the solution to all of our problems, but I will tell you, Democrats are the cause of them, and it's because of their ideological beliefs in the fact that they believe government fixes everything. And I don't believe government has fixed anything. There are some things that government does do. I appreciate having stoplights, policing powers. You got to have a police. Military is a good thing. But outside of really that, repairing the streets, keeping the highways and byways clear, the bridges, we should have safe bridges, but you can use private contractors for that. But outside of that, there really isn't a lot when they get involved into areas of, for instance, they're responsible for our immigration policies. They have failed miserably. They're responsible for a lot of the red tape, is what I call it, of our healthcare system. They butchered that. They have basically ruined everything they touch. In fact, I know that candidate Trump has said, whatever they touch turns to you know what. And it does. I mean, that's what we're seeing, this division of how they've divided. And of course, that's the new spiel. And I know you said that you're going to cover something about Trump might not be as conservative as
many believe.
And now the left is painting Trump as being the great divider. And what else do you do? Because if you, as we let off the show with, if you lie about lying, you should be lying and having somebody cover up for it, because there is no evidence, according to the left and all of the talking heads on mainstream media. And, once again, it's never stops, right? It's just rinse and repeat. That's right. I want to make sure, because I know, Kevin. So was that all that you were going to cover?
That's what I got
in a nutshell.
Listed so far.
In a nutshell. He's still working on it. Don't worry.
I got some stories.
There might be something that drops, not usually on Sunday afternoons. What is going to drop right now, Kevin, just so you know, that it looks like the Bears are within 3 points. So
they are within 3 points with 3 minutes left. There's a flag on the play.
Something might happen. So I definitely want to get to the McLean County Board. And things have changed on the McLean County Board. John McIntyre, Chairman McIntyre, resigned, and as he should. I mean, his health, it seems he's struggling with some health concerns or health issues. He is 80 years of age, and we've talked many times here on this radio station and on our radio shows about our elected officials, and especially those who are more seasoned and have gotten up there in age, and how that impacts their ability to be present and carry on the duties of a position like the chairman of McLean County Board. Well, John resigned. Vice Chair Elizabeth Johnson quickly called for a vote to replace the chair, which happened. Unfortunately, a member of the county board, a Democrat member, was not able to be present. They wanted her to be able to phone in and proxy her vote, and of course that's not allowed. And therefore the Republicans were able to get enough votes to seat Catherine Metzger, and we hope to have Catherine on our show soon. But she was definitely she's definitely a good choice for a replacement of John McIntyre. I look forward to that. Now, something else that was on the docket that night was the replacement of the District 8 board member, which quickly was called to a vote. And there were 3 Republican board members, who voted to seat the Democrat person for that district, which was done. Now there is what started the night off for the county board member or board meeting as a 9-9, 9 Republicans, 9 Democrat, ended as 10 Democrats and 9 Republicans. They have to replace the 5th district seat. And that is going to need to be done within 60 days of September 5th, the anniversary of my birthday. Not that I've mentioned that on the show yet. So they've got 60 days to replace. So there will be applications for replacement of John's seat. And, you know, so that's the part that we're going to continue to see play itself out here locally. And, you know, there's a lot of fodder out there and a lot of social media posts about how unfair it was that they didn't allow this member who was not present, physically present, to phone in a proxy vote in order to basically not seat a chairperson. However, they did concede, the Republicans, 3 Republican members of the county board conceded in seating it. So now they have a majority, which, if you think about it, Kevin, they kind of control whether anybody is seated for 60 days. Eventually, somebody will be seated to replace Chairman McIntyre, former Chairman McIntyre's 5th district of the county board. But right now, it is 10 Democrats, 9 Republicans on the county board until applications are reviewed and a vote is taken, or someone is selected and a vote is taken by the county board to bring it back to a 10-10 tie. That's how critical this season is that's in front of us. It is election season again, folks, and candidates are out there working to get signatures because that's part of what they're required to do to be on the ballot. They have to petition you and me and get us to say, yes, we want you to be on the ballot. Now, whether we want to vote for you or not, that's a whole different story. But I always encourage you to sign those petitions because it is truly the constitutional process of getting on the ballot. And if we don't have candidates who are willing to go out and get signatures, then we end up with not having candidates on the ballot. And it's so critical to have good candidates on the ballot, people who are willing to serve you and I and to uphold our constitutional rights that we have afforded to us, not only in Illinois, but at the federal level. Hey, we've got still a lot to cover. Once again, if I were the devil, what would I do? I would continue to do what I am currently doing because it's worked so well. Hey, I'm going to wrap it up. I want to make sure I've tied up everything when it comes to the county board because I don't want any confusion. If you were confused about my explanation, well, phone in or text into 309-451-9299, 309-451-9299. We're going to be back. Yes, it took us a little time to get up to speed here on the DPB show. Couple weeks away, but it is kind of like riding a bike. We're back in the saddle. Kevin Ferris will be coming up after the DPB show from 3 to 5 with Speechless. Stay tuned. There's a full afternoon ahead of us. And yes, the Bears are still down by 3 points. Hey, we'll be back right after this here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington, Normal, and beyond. Okay, I might have made a faux pas. Did I say OnlyFans or OnlyFans? OnlyFans. I don't know anything about that, Kevin, and I'm also scared about putting any of those things into my search engine. I mean, doesn't that scare you, concern you? I mean, maybe it doesn't concern you. You're 23 years old, 23, 22, still 22. I'm aging you 1 year. You're 22. You might not be concerned about I would not put that as I have a rule that I would like to, oh, there goes my microphone. Wow. How'd that happen? It's possessed.
You've been playing around with it a lot. I think you're doing it subconsciously.
Oh, well, because I'm back in studio and I want to make sure that my mic is where it's supposed to be. But I've always said I want my daughters to be able to grab my phone at any time and not be surprised by something. You know, that would be the last thing I'd want them to see, is that their dad was perusing OnlyFans, which Kat has assured me through her show, which I didn't realize you could just talk openly about shows, or what is it, a website? Is it a social media page?
About OnlyFans?
In Pornhub. I'm definitely
Yeah.
not going to Pornhub. Anything that says porn, I'm not putting that in to my, I'm already concerned about misspelling photography. Many of you might have caught that. Some not so much, but that's just DPB. So I just don't know about this OnlyFans. When my daughter, I mean, I'm on a walk with my daughter and her dog and my dog, and we pass somebody's house and we look at their license plate and it says OnlyFans. It says OL. I didn't think it had an N in it. Maybe it said OLYFANS. So that's why I thought it was OnlyFans.
Nope, it's OnlyFans. ONLY fans.
And Lauren Bobart, she's on that.
No,
Oh.
she doesn't have.
Or the gal from Virginia.
So she's going through her. No, even the gal from Virginia is on a site called Chatterbait.
Chatterbait. Because I did hear, I heard El Donzo and D's. I don't necessarily I haven't sat down yet, and I guarantee you that is not good to probably sit below the camera angle.
That's fine. You're.
I'm off there, right? So I'm
good.
coming back on air though.
You're gonna come back on
Yeah.
air.
Well, OnlyFans, not to be, but it is hypocrisy that the Dems are screaming at the top of their lungs about what transpired.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, one of our former game show hosts here at
You're
Cities.
about to come back.
Okay.
So you know.
I'm going to stand back up. Oh, not step on my headphones. But it was nice to sit down. Yes, I solid ground falling down from underneath my feet. I actually sat down in the chair for the first time today on the DPB show. Sometimes I'm sitting, sometimes I'm standing. Coming back from my sabbatical, 2 weeks off, you heard the best of, and some of you might have tuned in earlier and heard the best of. Hey, we do appreciate all of you that are joining us over on Facebook, Rumble, Twitter, and YouTube. Please like, share, let people know this content is so important that we get the word out, especially with an upcoming election season. You're not going to hear about the true values and morals and principles candidates on the right. It's just, there's a theme to bury facts, to bury truths. In fact, see how that that was a great transition. Many Democrats were screaming about this county board thing, even though I think they were repaid by the fact, John McIntyre was a Republican, and he was a very faithful, conservative leader for our community here in McLean County for many years. Just because he has health issues, replacing that seat, I should say, or that chairmanship with somebody that's a Democrat, that doesn't make sense. John worked long and hard hours, which is part of what probably caused some of his health problems. I mean, being in public office in of itself, as I've said many times, anybody in their right mind should never want to be in public office. However, I encourage many of you at the same time to petition and get on, right? But we need people who are willing to serve. And it's not always easy, and it does take a toll on your life. It can consume you. It can be a form of an addiction. But Democrats were screaming from the top of their lungs. In fact, one of our former talk show host here at Cities, who's no longer with Cities, his social media page, which I always know where he's going to go because he has a certain flavor. Kind of going along with the Dems on the sitting of Catherine Metzger as the chair. Well, just maybe a year ago, maybe less than a year ago, Stan Nord was berated for trying to call in a vote on council. So it's not surprising anymore, as the entire theme of the show has been, we lie about lying in order to cover up a lie, and then we run interference with another lie, and then there's no evidence. Many of you get that. That's the battle cry. It's not until we become honest with one another where we start truly exposing what is wrong, where we're at. I know that many people out there want to find common ground. Unfortunately, as Paul Harvey said 58 years ago, and I truly want you to, like I said, I'll put the audio version up on our Facebook page. If I were the devil, what would I do? Basically, not a lot. It ends with, I just would keep on doing what he's doing, because the devil's been in the mix. The devil is in the details. As sophisticated as we think we are, because, to the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. What's interesting is I've been and seen a lot of weddings lately. My wife will tell you that I refer to them as unholy matrimonies. Why is it? Because it's kind of a new thing that God isn't part of a wedding. And God is the author of two people becoming one flesh. And many of you get that. What that means is two become one. Well, one in heart, but one in the flesh, meaning they're offspring. I am the offspring of Jerry and Sally Blumenshine. I am the flesh of my parents' flesh. I wouldn't be your DPB host without my parents and the 63 years of marriage that they celebrated. And that was not an unholy matrimony. It was performed in a church. There was a pastor there. God was involved. And was it a perfect marriage? It's perfected through Christ. It's perfected through love, which is God. I can't get off air today without sharing this with you. The other day, I'm driving down Veterans Parkway, and I know I'm up against the end of the show. And I'm turning left on the Eastland Drive, and I look over to the right, and there's a bumper sticker that says that Satan loves me. I had to take a picture of it. No, Satan doesn't love anybody. God is love. Satan's a liar. And so are many people who are following into the deception, which is the essence of the entire message today from Paul Harvey. If I were the devil, I would just lie and tell you things that are untrue. Hey, I so appreciate you, obviously, letting me talk to you here after 2 weeks off. I'm going to be back next Sunday. Hopefully, I'm going to have a couple guests on that are running and vying for political office, and maybe Catherine Metzger will be able to show up and give us a breakdown of what's happening with the county board. But we're going to do that. We don't know what the news cycle is going to hold, but be prepared, because we're going to be here to break it down. Up next is Kevin Ferris with Speechless. He's geared up. He's ready to go. I look forward to turning him on for a few minutes, but I will be back next Sunday. Hey, until then, peace, love, and happiness. Take care.